We often describe limping as a compensation. A compensation is your body's way of solving a movement problem when its usual tools are not fully available. It's not a mistake. It's your body adapting in real time. Are you ready to get back to what you love after knee replacement? The Total Knee Success Podcast is your trusted guide with practical tips, evidence-based strategies, and no fluff. It's not personal medical advice, just solid education to help you manage pain, regain mobility, and get back to living the life you love. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Total Knee Success Podcast. I'm Michelle. If you've been limping since your knee replacement, you're probably wondering if you're doing something wrong. You might be worried that you're forming a bad habit or that your new knee is not working the way it should. Limping is one of the most visible parts of healing, which can make it one of the most frustrating experiences. Other people can see it, and sometimes they comment on it with advice that sounds simple, but does not reflect what your body is actually going through. And it can be some unwelcome advice, too. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why limping happens, how to tell the difference between a limp that's protecting you and a limp that's holding you back, and what to do next with each one. This is part 3 of our 4-part walking series. In the last episode, we talked about why trying to walk perfectly can slow your progress. Today, we're talking about that one step further and talking about compensation. Let's start by reframing what a limp actually is. In physical therapy, we often describe limping as a compensation. A compensation is your body's way of solving a movement problem when its usual tools are not fully available. It's not a mistake. It's your body adapting in real time. After knee replacement, your body temporarily loses access to several key movement tools. Your quadriceps muscles are weaker. Swelling limits how far your knee can bend and straighten. Your nervous system is still protective and cautious, and your brain is learning how to trust your new knee during movement. We also know from research that after knee surgery, the quadriceps muscle group often has difficulty fully activating, not just because it's weak, but because the nervous system limits how much it can contract, which makes controlling your knee during walking more difficult. Because your body is built to keep you moving, it finds workarounds. It's pretty amazing. You may shift your weight off your surgical leg more quickly, keep that leg a little stiffer when you walk, or move your trunk or hips differently to make walking feel easier or more stable. That is the limp. And early on, this type of limp is expected. It is protective, and your body is reducing stress on tissues that are still healing and building capacity gradually. At most points in healing, some degree of asymmetry in walking is expected, especially when strength and motion are still improving. Not all limps look the same. Some people shorten their time on their surgical leg and step quickly off of it. Some keep the knee stiff and avoid bending it as they walk. Some shift their body weight away from that side to avoid fully loading it. Each of these patterns is your body trying to solve a slightly different problem. For example, stepping quickly off that leg often reflects a lack of trust in how well it can hold you. A stiff knee during walking can reflect limited motion or swelling still influencing how the joint moves, especially when the knee does not fully straighten as your foot hits the ground or when it stays slightly bent while you're standing on it. You might also notice difficulty bending the knee enough to clear your foot when you swing your leg forward, which can make your step feel shorter or more cautious. Leaning away from that side often means your body is trying to reduce how much load it has to take. But healing does not stay in that phase forever, and this is where things begin to shift. As swelling decreases and strength improves, your body often becomes more capable of handling normal walking demands. However, sometimes the movement pattern does not update right away. The nervous system can continue using those earlier strategies out of habit or perceived threat, even when they are no longer needed. That is when the same pattern that helped you early on can start to work against you. If you continue to avoid loading your surgical leg or rely heavily on those workarounds longer than necessary, other areas of your body can begin to take on more stress. Over time, that can contribute to discomfort in your hips, your back, or your other knee, especially if it continues longer than your body needs it. It can also slow down strength gains in your surgical leg because it's not being challenged in the way it needs. So how do you start to recognize the difference between a limp that's helping you and one that's starting to hold you back in your own walking. A few patterns tend to show up. Early after surgery, the limp usually eases when pain and swelling settle, and it often becomes more noticeable with fatigue. Later on, if the limp improves when you slow down or use support but returns when you rush, that points more toward a pattern that hasn't updated yet. One place to start is timing. In the early weeks after surgery, a limp is almost always protective. Your body is still in a phase where swelling, weakness, and sensitivity are expected. During that time, your focus is not on eliminating the limp. Your focus should be on building the foundation. As you move further along, especially when your motion is improving and your strength is coming back, your walking pattern has more capacity to change. Research looking at movement patterns shows that how your knee and hip move during activity is connected to pain and function, even though that relationship is not always simple, which means improving how your body moves is part of improving how it feels. Another place to look is how your body responds when you gently try to adjust your walking. One simple thing to notice is what happens when your weight is on your surgical leg. Do you feel steady there, or do you immediately want to get off of it? That moment often tells you more than anything else about what your body is ready for. If you slow down and focus on taking a more even step, and your body can do that without sharp pain or a sense of instability, that tells you something important. It tells you that the capacity is likely there. The pattern just needs to catch up. If, on the other hand, you try to change your walking and your knee feels like it cannot support you, or it simply will not move the way you're asking it to, then your body is still relying on that protective strategy for a reason. This distinction shapes what you do next. If your limp is protective, the priority is not to force a normal walking pattern. The priority is to build strength, improve motion, and reduce swelling. And as those improve over time, your walking pattern often begins to change naturally. If your limp is more of a habit, then it becomes a retraining process, where you begin to help your nervous system update its expectations. This does not require perfect walking all day, but it does mean giving your body regular opportunities to practice a more balanced pattern. Rehabilitation after knee replacement is not one size fits all, and the research and expert consensus emphasize that progress depends on your specific strength, movement, and goals. If you're unsure which pattern you're seeing, this is a great place to work with your physical therapist, who can assess your walking and guide you based on what your body is showing. It's difficult to see for yourself. If you have a skilled observer, it can be much easier to figure out what's going on. One effective way to start is with a simple weight shifting. Standing at a counter, gently shifting your weight from one leg to the other, allowing your surgical leg to take more load in a controlled way. It may seem simple, but this is one of the most direct ways to rebuild load tolerance and confidence in your surgical leg. Another approach is controlled walking practice. Choose a quiet space, slow your pace slightly, and focus on steady, even steps. Not perfect steps, just steady. What often slows people down is trying to fix everything at once, thinking about every step, every detail. Your body does not relearn walking that way. It relearns through repetition, load, and practice over time. You may also notice that the more you think about your walking, the more unnatural it can feel. It feels like a weird movement if you completely pick it apart. And that's not because you're doing it wrong. Walking is normally pretty automatic. And when you try to control every aspect of it, it can interfere with how your body coordinates the movement. You might even notice that your walking feels different when someone's watching you. Hopefully, when your physical therapist is watching you, maybe they're watching you when you don't realize it. So you won't be, putting on a show of your best walking, which might feel kind of awkward. It also might feel different when you're trying harder to do it right. And this doesn't mean you're going backwards. It just means your system is under a little more pressure and it's harder for those automatic patterns to come through. You may also have moments where one step feels smooth and the next one does not. That inconsistency, it's not a setback. It's often a sign that your body is in transition. You're learning a new movement, so sometimes it feels different. Moving between protection and a more normal movement. So when you walk today, please don't try to walk perfectly for every step. Pay attention to what your body is showing you, giving it opportunities to load your surgical leg and adjusting based on what feels steady and supported. If you notice yourself rushing off your surgical leg, give yourself a moment there. Let that step happen instead of escaping it. Fatigue is another key piece of this. You may notice that your walking looks different at different times of day. Earlier in the day, it may feel smoother, and later on, you may see more of a limp return. It doesn't mean you're losing progress. It means your muscles have reached their current limit or capacity for the day, and they're getting tired. So your body returns to a more protective strategy. When that happens, rest is often the most productive choice because pushing through a fatigue-driven limp tends to reinforce the pattern you're trying to move away from. This is also why your walking can look different from one moment to the next. Your body is constantly adjusting based on how much capacity it has in that moment. When a limp lingers, it can feel like you're stuck, but more often, you're not stuck. You're in between phases, where your body has gained some capacity, but the pattern has not fully caught up yet. And you haven't fully put that into your long-term neuromemory yet. There's one more piece that fits into this conversation, and that is assistive devices. There can be pressure to stop using a cane as quickly as possible, or stop using a walker even as quickly as possible. But if removing that device leads to a more pronounced limp, it might be doing more harm than good to get rid of it that quickly. A cane can help you practice a smoother walking pattern while your strength is still developing. Using support to move well is often a better strategy than removing it too early and reinforcing a limp. Limping is not a sign that something has gone wrong. It's part of how your body navigates healing. Rather than trying to eliminate it immediately, it can be more useful to notice that it's telling you something. Sometimes it reflects a need for more strength, sometimes more time, and sometimes it's a sign that you are ready for the next step with a little guidance. Sometimes that's actually being done with your cane if you're relying on it too much. So research following people after knee replacement shows that improvements in walking and function, they develop over time, often across many months, rather than all at once, which is why what you're seeing now is only one point along that path. This process is not linear and it does not look exactly the same for everyone. So if you're seeing a limp, it's easy to focus on trying to get rid of it right away, but often what helps more is paying attention to what the limp is showing you and what your body might need next. In the next episode, we're going to talk about a question that many people may be asking themselves. When will this feel like me again? Will I always walk like this? And is this as good as it gets? I suppose that's 3 questions. Next episode, we'll walk through what most people experience in the weeks and months after surgery, what changes to expect as your strength and confidence build, and how to recognize when your walking is moving in the right direction. Before we close, I want to remind you that if you want more support wherever you are in the process, you can join the Total Knee Success Insider newsletter. It's completely free. It's where I share education to help you stay steady, whether you're preparing for surgery, just getting started, or further along and working on building strength and confidence. You can check out the link in the show notes or go to totalkneesuccess.com. And if you have a question about knee replacement in general, you can visit the Ask Michelle page at totalkneesuccess.com or also check out the show notes for a link. I read every question, but I'm not able to respond individually. Questions may be used in future podcast episodes. And this doesn't replace medical advice from your care team. Make sure you're following the podcast so you can hear when your question might be answered in a future episode. So remember, not all limps are problems. It's really part of the process. Some are part of progress, and some are simply a sign that your body is ready for the next step, literally and figuratively. And that next step is often where real change begins. Thanks for listening. I'm Michelle, and this has been the Total Knee Success Podcast. This podcast is for educational purposes only. Discover more at totalkneesuccess.com and be sure to subscribe and share because every step forward takes you closer to living the life you love.